Oh no. Well, I know this. What?
I mean, we already talked about this literally in our notes section. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, this is Lessons, and we are back with another episode of GQuuuuuX. Quite possibly the penultimate. The element of not knowing how many episodes are going to be kind of reduces our ability to tell. That's why every schedule I put the episode title down as question mark, question mark, question mark. There's just no telling if this is going to be a 12 episode or a 13 episode, or, you know, leave on a cliffhanger. Who the hell knows? Either way, though, we come with notes, we come with a board, we come with comments, but as always, let's start with the board. Of course, with the board comes the board changelog, where I have added Giran Zabi to the board proper, then marked him as dead. I added Cecilia Irene, then marked her as dead. I added Admiral Chapman, then marked him as dead. I added Leo Liani to the board proper, then marked him as dead. I added Prime Minister Garcia as a mention. I added Degwin Zabi as a mention, then marked him as dead. Marked Terza Leone as dead. And then I turned the white line connecting Chalia to Xavier red.
Yes. All that fits, actually. Because Shirozu escaped in time. It's like, oh, I see a Gundam coming in. I'm going to just step out of here right now. I got to go take my break. I'll be right back. And literally wrecks the office space or whatever, the command control rooming. And he's like, nope. He's out.
He only barely got out.
Yeah.
Seeing it coming and everything. He only just got to the door.
But didn't lose his cool, though. It's like he was panicking.
How would you know? His eyes are covered. He doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
For all you know, there was a vacuum in the room and he's shouting, fuck. You know, there's no telling what the hell's going on there.
No, I don't think there was a vacuum because he would have been... When he opens the door, the air.
I'm pretty sure that tunnel was connected to space, just open ass space. So the room would have been exposed to space the moment the thing got destroyed.
Didn't seem to be affected by vacuum either.
Well, I mean, being exposed to vacuum isn't like an instantaneous thing. Sorry, the heat exposure to space is not an instantaneous thing. There is the element of what one's body does in exposure to immediate vacuum. But I mean, that's still like a 20-second process, of which we saw 2 to 3 seconds.
And apparently he was in a relationship with the good doctor's daughter, apparently, at least friendship, only for him to go, no, sorry. Not worth it. Not worth it dying here.
Well, there's the semi-spoiler element that our commenters have given us, that this dude has the same voice actor as Char.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's not beyond the norm for voice actors to play multiple characters, so it's not an automatic given that this is Char. But were this to be Char, then it's entirely possible he was just using these people, but to what end? Also, there's also the element that this could be an entirely different Char.
From another dimension, yeah.
Yeah, not the Char that Zek Nova at the beginning that Charlie is looking for, but a Char from another universe, which is Zek Nova into this one.
He's like, either way, he's like, yeah, I don't care about you people. Bye. Yeah.
Anyway, any other notes about the board?
No. Well, wait a minute. You didn't mark Tirsa as dead, though.
Oh, you didn't see where she actually got out? I'm joking. I just forgot, I guess.
I mean, it could be that I missed something. There you go, Redix.
No, I think I was rewatching and taking my notes like at 1 a.m. or something. I don't know. The feeling of what time is anymore is just lost to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any other major changes that are... Although, well, I didn't make a note of this, but I think either it was a flashback or... what's his name? Chila Wesley was talking real time to Simus during the episode, but I'm not really sure. So, yeah,
But
it could be anything.
We've already got Simus on the board, though. And
Yeah, no. Just like I
his
remember that because I
conversation
saw
with
her, but
no, she wasn't present. Her voice, it was just voice only. She wasn't present, but she was talking to him. But I'm saying that the conversation they had doesn't change anything.
No. I remember because I saw her first, like, yeah, that happened too. Okay. It's brought back memories of that. So, no more comments about the board.
All right, well, that takes us to notes then.
See how many notes I have. You probably have more than I do. I only have 8.
I think I only have 11. But either way, that means I go first. I guess the Earth cooled really slowly over the course of 5 years due to all that crap put into the atmosphere as a result of Operation British and the war itself. Pergamino even says so-called nuclear winter, despite the fact that the atmosphere just hasn't reflected that in most of the series we've seen so far. The closest I can think of was in Origin, when the death toll was called out, and the number of dead was attributed to things that you would imagine would accompany a nuclear winter situation. Maybe this is something more explored in Zeta, that we've just not been shown the direct nuclear winter type effects and have been regulated to locations across the globe that have thus far remained relatively normal to their previous conditions.
And time of year as well. If you're talking about summer in India, probably still pretty warm. Well, depending where you are in India, of course, because India has deserts. It has, the Himalayas, which are pretty cold. It has jungles. It has all kinds of. It's a subcontinent, so.
Well, I mean,
one should not oversimplify.
My mind went back to 8th MS team and I kept talking about how it snowed there. But then I'd done the research. I don't think I ever brought it up in any notes or anything. But I know I linked it to you that the indicated area where 8th MS team was taking place was one part of the Malaysian continent that does snow a lot.
So I guess I'll have my first note, because this is the first thing I noticed. We talked about this before, but it was so obvious I just had to comment on it. Whoever does the branding for Sion should really, really do the 9-year-old vibe check thing before creating a logo like that. And Pergamino is either too stupid or too greedy to realize it. Because Pergamino's talking, there's a logo right there. It looks like a horrible monster from the Id, which is, based on, literally based on Cthulhian mythos. And he's like, oh, this is going to be beneficial for everybody. Don't worry about it. This thing on the board, it's just some drawing. Some logo.
I didn't bring it up because I brought it up back when it first appeared and then went into a whole Cthulhu description of the monster that it's supposed to, or the old god. Elder god, it's supposed to be. It's not an old god, it's an elder god. So I brought it up once a long time ago, and you've brought it up every time it's appeared after that one. So that's why I'm not bringing it up anymore. I did my one-time thing.
Yeah, but here it's so blatant that he's like, oh, this is, I don't know, it's supposed to be a comment on corruption, and that it's so blatant that people will actually go like, no, this is going to be a great thing. Never mind the giant floating clitoris vagina with dents with teeth or something. I don't know what the hell this is. Never mind it. Never mind. The flower of death that is supposed to be this thing.
I was going to scroll back up to my notes where I said what the description was supposed to have been. But I think we're just going to leave it at what you just said.
Anyway, your notes.
So some Caecilia reveals Degwin died 5 years ago, so during the war, presumably. Had a state funeral, so that's nice. I guess maybe the speech Girin gave for Garma was done for Degwin instead. Caecilia implies that it was Girin that killed him this time as well. Girin's been spending most of his time away from Zoom City, and instead was at the villa with his favorite secretary, aka Cecilia Irene, reinforced by Prime Minister Darcia.
Yeah, that was my second note as well about all the things. So Degwin is dead. The siblings haven't seen each other in 5 years. Girin has a thing for blondes, which we kind of hinted at before. The Prime Minister Darcia exists in this timeline. Oh, and Caecilia suffers no guilt for killing half of the human population. Good to know.
Well, I got a future note about that last one. Yeah. I mean, I think there's also like a line on the board. I'm looking at the board. The screen's not looking at the board anymore. That I connected Giran to Dagwin with a red line and a blue line.
Your next note then.
I find that at times it is easy to misread Caecilia's intent or opinion. At first, I thought she found Giran to be pathetic for having killed half of the population, but what Caecilia actually says is that Giran is pathetic for having remorse for killing half of humanity with a colony drop. Not pathetic for doing it, but pathetic for feeling bad about it.
Which is what I said in the very end of my notes.
And that's what I said. I had a note about it. I just didn't know. I don't know where my notes are. I'm not going to read ahead.
This is just a short question. So who or what reactivated the Jupiter fleet systems? It says the AI, but if they were damaged, then what conveniently brought them back to life at the last moment, you know?
I guess I am going to skip a note then to react to your note with one of mine, which is a bit longer. So solar rays from Jupiter shut down the Jupiter fleet's autopilot system. Okay, fair enough. Didn't hear enough about that in the OG to have any sort of comparison. The system's coming back online just as Chalia was about to kill himself after having found himself. A bit coincidental, but not exactly sure what the show is trying to press upon me if it was not actually coincidental. I mean, the GQuuuuuX and Red Gundam seem to act on their own from time to time, but this feels completely unrelated. I doubt the fleet was being run by a Sakamu system. Best guess would be a new type reaching through time to ensure that Chalia got back so that he would be there where he was needed to be. But even that is just wild speculation without evidence. Hell, for all we know, Zek Nova got sent back in time and then manipulated everything going forwards into the future.
Maybe.
It's not a maybe. It's not even close to a maybe. As I said in the note itself, wild speculation.
My next note then. Good use of Caecilia's mask during the assassination, since she's known for wearing one all the time. Nobody would see the other mask she was wearing underneath. All she had to do was open the bottle and let the station's air system do its work. That's why the little bottle was, consumed. I suppose the way it went, it was like she was open it, was carrying it. That's it. She was like, gearing is late. Like, this is eventually it's gonna filter out. It's not gonna work, right? Want to kill the people here, and she's gonna go like, what the hell, right? And run away or call.
I mean, similarly, it was a slow-acting poison of some sort, because when you watch her leave the room, the guys outside are holding their mouths, but also there's a pile of like 3 of Giran's guards dead outside. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it was a struggle. It seemed like they died as well. And then I don't assume that the rest of the station is full of dead people. So, I don't imagine these people are going to be like holding their mouths the rest of the day. So I have to assume that she like let it open as she was entering the room so that the people outside would get it. And then just it was there while she was in the room.
Yeah.
But as we all know, Caecilia just doesn't like the smell of war, as per Chapman.
Yeah, but Chapman's dead, so it doesn't matter anymore what he believes in.
Well, I mean, it
still does.
Yeah. The element that we're still fighting Giran's forces implies that despite Giran being dead, his opinions still matter to somebody.
Yeah, he has loyalists who may or may not, he's dead or might want to avenge him, right? Or might hate Caecilia more than they like Giran, right? It's like, yeah, we may not like Giran, but we don't trust you, so we're going to kill you anyway. Which is a good motive as anything to keep fighting. Your next note, then.
What an inconvenient way to measure the deployed forces of the National Guard units. Ocilio sitting sideways in his chair with binoculars out. Like, the bridge has a whole deck with wide windows. Someone standing up and near them could have been doing that. Either way, 4 big zombs on site, as well as recently deployed Unit 13. Ocilio is the guy sitting up in the chair, by the way, in case you couldn't remember, doing this. If you don't know, my window is right there, so that's perfectly and a good example, but it's just like we've constantly shown the other people just walking around on the bridge who could just be doing that.
Although we don't know what Unit 13 is. Do we see a Unit 13? We only see the
Could be
big
anything.
Sams get blown up.
Could literally be G-Fred. Could be the gquuuuuux itself. Oh no, be G-Fred or it wouldn't be Xavier's. They wouldn't call him. Well, no, it
No,
wouldn't be
because they'll be
Xavier.
part of the same attacking force.
G-Fred
Yeah,
then.
so. Oh, G-Fred is also part of their attacking force. So
no, G-Fred is on the gear. No, you're right.
Cassilia side, so they wouldn't count them.
And then gquuuuuux is on the ship, so they wouldn't count that.
Yeah, so it must be something else.
And it wouldn't be Chalia's thing. Yeah, the element that they wouldn't call out their own stuff. You're right. G-Fred was Caecilia's, so that wouldn't be part of the. I don't know.
No, this is.
That's why I made the note of it, because I couldn't figure it out at the time either. So
yeah. And I'm not trying to correct you. I'm trying to clarify for the audience, because what it said when they're looking, it's like, oh, they brought the big, they brought the big Sams to support Girin plus Unit 13. Just to make sure. I'm not trying to correct you, though.
No. I just don't know. Maybe Unit 13 is the group that Xavier is controlling. Maybe Unit 13 isn't an individual. It's a group. It's a unit.
No, but remember, again, Xavier was brought in by Caecilia. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I can only identify the
it could
things that
be
we
the
saw.
ships, though. It could be the fleet. But
no, because they referred to the fleet by the name of the ship that Girin came on. I have a future note naming it, so I don't remember off the top of my head. It's over the G. So it doesn't seem like it'd be that. They would just call it the name of the ship. I don't know. The fight's not over yet, so I'm sure we're going to see it this episode. Probably.
And my next note. I think Caecilia admits that they, the Savis, or at least Girin, you mentioned that it was Girin, so says he assassinated Daikun. But she stopped at the killing of. She accepted that, but stopped at the killing of their father. That wasn't acceptable to her. Mind you, we don't hear or see anything about Sasro, so Caecilia could have murdered him. So much for family. I mean, she just also says that moments after she murdered her own elder brother. So
again, I mean, I'll respond to your note with another one of mine that covers the same thing. It seems like this. It seems that this Caecilia blames Girin for killing Daikun, evidence we never really got in our watch through yet. Anyways, though it seems like we are moving past that ever becoming a thing that would matter to find out. I figured it was she that had done it, though I feel like the shows we've watched have implied Dagwin himself did it.
Or that Daikun believed that it was Dagwin, which, had it been Girin or Caecilia, Daikun would have seen it as somebody from the...
Sorry, you said that Daikun believed that he had done it. I think you mean somebody else.
The idea is... No. Daikun says, the last words that he says is Dagwin. And everybody takes that to be, oh, you selected him to be your successor. But it's also the implication that he's saying the name of his murderer. Now, it could be Dagwin did it directly, or somebody from the Sabi family, in which case the fault will still be his by connection. He still benefits from it, whether it's Girin or Caecilia or someone else.
I mean, he could also just be calling out the last person he saw, which is Dagwin, who's literally on top of him. Could be the start of Dagwin, help me, for all we know.
Yeah.
You can't take the last person's words to mean anything.
Well, actually, legally, they do have a lot of weight. The deathbed confessions are considered to be one of the exceptions to the hearsay rule.
Well, with my last breath, I cursed Zoidberg.
That could also be a thing. Okay, you answered my note, but your note, so I'll read another note then. Or my next note. Caecilia manipulating Neon shows how much of a real bitch she is. Mind you, no one except perhaps their little brother, who left the family, in their family, was much better. Dagwin murdered Daikun, we think. Giran engineered the largest war crime in human history and murdered his father, and Cassilia now gained control of the most powerful weapon known to man, one powered by a comatose and enslaved new type from another dimension.
I mean, you left Dozel out.
Well, I guess Dozel signed off on Operation British, so he
Complicit,
also is a
yeah.
bastard.
I mean,
complicit. So
yeah, but I mean, he wasn't there. And also, he didn't mention Dozel's daughter.
well, she was. Well, I'm talking about
Minerva.
the immediate
Or Dozel's
Sabi
wife.
family. No, I don't know if they're alive or not. They might be dead. I mean, if they're willing to kill each other like this, they could have.
Well, yeah, because you remember they had to be
him.
evacuated, so they were there. So there's no telling how Dozel really died.
Mm-hmm.
No, except for Sayla did it. Never mind, I forgot. So I guess we're gonna figure out if Sayla's down for killing women and children.
Or they just didn't escape in time for whatever explosion could have killed them or something. I don't know. Or their ship got intercepted, or they fell in the hands of either Cassilia or Giran, and they're like, yeah, no, you two gotta go. You gotta go. You're too liability.
But I don't think she's manipulating Nian.
Oh, I think she's definitely manipulating. Oh, no, the people of Earth, they're never going to let us go, blah, blah, blah. You got to do this.
I believe that Cassilia believes what she's saying. If you believe what you're saying, it's not manipulation. It's not even coercion. It's just saying what you believe. Because if you believe a thing and you tell somebody what you believe and the other person agrees with you, that is just allying together.
But the way it's being done, she's doing Neon's hair at the time. She's being very motherly to her. She's like creating a situation for somebody who is starved for attention and family because she's an orphan. At least we think she's an orphan. And biggest desire is to have people to trust and take care of her and be with people. It's like, oh, this is that's gonna be lasting on Earth. We gotta deal with this problem. I'm entrusting you with this, like a big sister, mother kind of situation.
It's entirely possible that's how she sees the situation. Maybe she sees a
you could have just simply told her, it's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And instead of putting her in a situation like she makes her food, like her own food, like that means to me, especially knowing who Cassilia is, who is a master manipulator and who works behind the scenes, it's more likely that that's exactly what she's doing. Whether she believes it or not, that's what she's doing.
I think the problem is if, say, you have a spy and all you use the spy for is honeypot missions, and then she starts hitting on you, and you're going to be like, well, I never can tell, right? You're always going to be doubting. Maybe she's honeypotting me. At the same time, her end, she might actually have fallen in love, or Cassilia, in this respect, may have found a kindred spirit that she's like, I can raise her as my own. She's an orphan, I can take her in. You could keep guessing the entire time, but the fact exists that it could be true.
But in the absence of countervailing information, which we don't have, that is the most likely scenario.
I would also argue that this is anime. And by that, I mean, by anime standard, a hero tends to always give a second chance to prove that you're not that. Think back to 8th MS Team, the movie.
She's not the hero, though.
The movie. Where, she's about to shoot Shiro and everything, and they're just, like, talking her down, and she still fucking shoots right next to him. The idea that she's gonna push through this whole thing and make Shiro look like the bad guy and all this other shit, and Shiro just lets her go.
Yeah, but I don't think how relevant is this, considering that this is Caecilia's plan, and now she has a super weapon, and we already know that she has no qualms about what happened, the murder of 4 billion people, plus the people that were
how
murdered
about the element that
Banshee.
Yeah, no, you're talking about like good shit. I'm not talking about good shit. I'm talking about the element of I'm sorry, you're saying, I think you're taking my element of the hero gives the villain a second chance to do good as an element of Caecilia's not a good person, and that's not what I'm saying. A lot of villains get a second chance and they fucking die because they don't change their ways. I'm just saying that there's an element here that I think in anime, the typical thing to do is have the opportunity to change who you are. I mean, to what you're saying, that she's manipulating her, why? We have a whole thing of evidence that sees Caecilia is nurturing a whole generation of new types. She could have 100 people already before Nian's even in the picture, ready to do this thing. Why her? Why pick her up out of nowhere to do this?
I think she believes that she's special and she can use her, and she's, I
But
remember also the other pilots had gotten killed. We don't know how many new types she has available. Doesn't seem to have to be many.
the idea is that she has a new type core, and Gurren was doing the cyber new types thing. So I have a whole note about that in the future, so I'm not trying to delve into that concept right now. But the idea of what you're saying, prevailing wisdom would say, Caecilia is always going to be Caecilia. And it's like, I just don't feel like that's the case. One, because we've already had judgment calls against her before, how weird it seemed, how uninformed about everything she was back on Side 6, that she doesn't seem to be quite the Caecilia that we knew. And also the element, again, why Nian, if she already has other new types? Like, we know she even has Xavier. She had Xavier from the get-go.
Yeah, but Xavier doesn't seem to be the same ability or quality as Neon. Neon has been proven to do things that Xavier could, like activating remotely the Q-Red and killing that guy, That by itself is like, oh, nobody's done that before. That's something that's noticeable.
Technically, it feels like she could have ordered Shalia to do this.
Except maybe she doesn't trust Chyla.
Except that Shalia saved her life.
Well, yeah, but it was because his plan, which didn't work.
Not investigating Shalia's motivations or what he's up to. From her perspective, she stopped investigating Shalia with Xavier, which was the entire point. Xavier was on the ship to begin with, and said he was in the clear because he saved her life. He's proven that he's not trying to kill me, despite what is actually happening. So, in her mind, Shalia is in the clear. And Shalia is the most powerful new type in Zeon, what they've said. So, all things put together, you would think Shalia would be in the G-Fred.
I think there's an element missing there why Chyla wouldn't be pegged. Maybe her closeness to Char?
I don't know. Like I said, the element that she has so many new types under her already. Why Nian?
How many does he? 3?
Conceivably, it's been 5 years since the end of the war, and new types are popping up all over the place at the end of the war.
But we don't see any more on Spring, though, so conceivably they could be there, but we haven't seen them.
Okay, well, let's just do this mathematically. How many people are in a core?
More than one.
Standard.
Core means group.
Yeah, but typically in the formation of different styles of... sorry, the word I want keeps coming out of my mouth is platoon, but in different sizes of military groups, core tends to have a minimum number.
Well, depending on when you're talking about, if you're talking World War II, when U.S. Army, for example, will be at least 3 divisions. Today, core is just a regional
the size of the core varies greatly, but 2 to 5 divisions and anywhere from 40,000 to 80,000 are the numbers stated by the U.S. Department of Defense.
Yeah, but I don't think core. But the problem is that core can mean many things. It could basically be for example, the Corps of Engineers, and not simply 3 to 5 divisions. They're just the grouping of people that are engineers in the U.S. Army. They're not just, the Marine Corps goes all the divisions and all the units of the Marine Corps, which is not just. In fact, I think it's only 2 divisions, first and second division, and the rest are reserve divisions. So. It has different terms. It could be just, this is a group of specialist people. That's it. Like if I have a sabotage corps, do I have like 5 divisions of saboteurs? That seems a bit extreme. I managed to train 80,000 saboteurs. Why? You're only like 800 for most jobs,
I'm just giving counter examples. I understand what you were saying, but at the same time, that's my counter.
It's not the strongest of counters.
I say it's pretty strong still. There's 9 billion people before we killed half of humanity. Say round up 5 billion people left. Say probably 4 billion is that for Earth Federation, because we have a limit to how many people we can hold in the sides. So say out of 1 billion people, how many of those could possibly be new types? The answer at the end of the day is how many could possibly be? 1 billion. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but we haven't. One thing they haven't done up till now, they probably might do it in another show. Do the whole like they don't usually do it in many shows where people have magical powers or psionic powers, like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million.
That's
right?
what I'm trying to indicate. That even if we try to follow that train of thought and say, oh, only 1 billion people at the end of the 1 year war were Zeon, then even of that fraction, 40,000 isn't a large percentage of the population.
If that is the ratio that we find, it could be 1 in.
I'm just
100
extrapolating.
million.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just extrapolating.
And then you have to discover them and recruit them, which
they're going out of their way for. Flanagan Institute.
True, but we don't know if people, if you're a new type, would you avoid being drafted by Zeon? Would you gladly join Zeon? Right?
It's probably like Bester in the Psi Corps. They go out of their way to force you.
Again, we haven't seen that behind the scenes, so
yeah. Well, I'm just you're proposing hypotheticals, right? And I'm just trying to do my best to extrapolate numbers. Because again,
we only have on screen we've had 6.
Well, we both
types
we disagree. We're already going to disagree on those numbers because you and I don't have
7.
Well, no. Here's the thing: is that you already disagree about the kids being new types.
No, I'm talking about GQuuuuuX right now, not the kids who are.
Well, we can't. We can't extrapolate.
Remember, this is the different.
We can't extrapolate from GQuuuuuX because GQuuuuuX is the thing we're talking about. That Caecilius has a new type core, and you're like, well, we've seen 7, and it's like, okay, so that doesn't answer the question about the core element if they're indicating to us that there are a lot of new types. And your argument is, yeah, but they could be using core in the administrative sense, in which case they have 1 new type. He is the core himself. It's like, you can't. We can only extrapolate from the universal century that we've seen. And I understand that you're getting it.
Significantly different.
It's significantly different, but I think it's mostly significantly different after the fact.
And even if we follow, even if GQuuuuuX's description of the time before the end of the war, there are only 2 of them, Chyla and Char. Well, 4.
Lala.
5.
I'm Lala, but also, that's just an element of villains that we don't talk about. We're not covering every person we've ever seen in the Universal Century in this show. We're just covering the people that the show wants us to, remember Barry, right? So
even then, we reach out to new characters. 3 from the Federation, 2 from Zeon, and 1 independent because Lala was on Earth.
I would argue that what you're describing, if we were to use your numbers and then looked at the board and then did a breakdown of what percentage of these characters are new types versus the total amount of characters we have, that would be a large percentage. To my 1 billion people, take that percentage, it would be way more than 40,000 people.
Yeah, but this is not per capita or representative. After all, we're focusing on the people. Focusing on the people that are important.
You have to choose how you're displaying your data, because in any wild interpretation of your data, I could just see those numbers and take them any different other way. But that's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm saying is that if we were to assume that the number of new types that exist in GQuuuuuX is somewhere near the same as the number of new types that existed in the Universal Century, which is to say the number of people present in any given show, totaled up across the 1 year war, would represent the same population density of new types in this show, but then whatever happens 5 years after the fact, because we don't know, we haven't seen Zeta yet. I haven't seen Zeta yet. Is an unknowable thing. But I think the impetus is always supposed to be, in the Universal Century, the 1 year war is the rise of the new types. So it's a very hard number to come across when people are just awakening to new type stuff.
Your next note, then.
So despite our many talks about Xeon running out of money past the end of the war, the Diet still approved 22 more big zoms in their budget. Of course, that doesn't signal that that we were incorrect, as they could be overspending and running a debt.
They might be on an extreme, and that's probably, well, there's mentioning that I think Caecilia, was it Caecilia they accused, or they accused Caecilia of going to Pergamino to get money?
They accused
Like,
Caecilia.
oh, you went to of needing money. It's like, in other words, what if there was a surplus in the Sion economy, they wouldn't need investors like Pergamino from Side 6. It was like, no, we just build it on our own.
We already had a conversation about that, the idea that she was going around Giran's structure to get funding from elsewhere to build stuff outside of the Zen. Yeah.
Yeah. But on paper, that shouldn't be the case. It would be harder for her to justify. It's like, oh, we have the budget. Why are you going outside?
I don't have a note about it here, but other characters have also spoken out about Xeon running out of money.
And also the fact that they're selling older suits to people like Side 6 for their own military use, right? They're older machines, of course, which means that they have the edge. They're keeping the Psycho Move system for themselves, but...
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think that denotes anything. The U.S. government does that.
Partly to the freight cost of buying new machines, right? Because what you do is that you sell these machines, and they're, in theory, the cost per unit goes down the more they're out there, right? And refurbishing machines and selling them also keeps factories going, because not everybody is doing the latest and greatest stuff. There's the people who have the, because there's something called industrial retooling, right? If you're going to build a new machine, you have to often retool for the specifications of the new machine. That means that either you have to completely close down the other factories and let people go, although most of these factories probably are highly automated, but still you have to have engineers and overseers and maintainers, right? We don't see a lot of little robots running around, at least except for a few, entertainment machines. Not, we don't see them working hard, day-to-day machines, right? We don't see factories. So you have to retool. How do you keep those people and those companies still going? And overall, the freight costs, defense costs, you sell your own machines. Like, oh, hey, we're going to sell these old Sakus, put them back in the factory, refurbishing them for, take their weapons away if it's for civilian use, or specific weapon models to sell to other Banshee or sides that are still going on. Hey, go with that. Also, although here's the thing. I think Sion economy should be exploding right now if they went into the business of rebuilding the destroyed Banshees, right? If they went into that business, which basically is a construction business, they probably have the monopoly on out of Earth materials. They're the ones who have the fleet that can go and get asteroids and whatnot.
This episode, we already heard that the Federation hasn't given up on space supremacy.
Yeah, but we haven't seen any spaceships, and apparently Sion has free reign to go to and from Earth without being stopped by the Federation.
We haven't seen much of the Federation other than their one operation on Side 6.
Yeah, and they had to sneak in
But who's to say that the Federation hasn't, blossomed with like a post-war miracle? Like, we haven't seen much of the Federation at all.
Yeah, well, what did with one thing we saw in the Federation on the ground was a destroyed city. And if you still have nuclear winter, yeah, that may still be difficult to rebuild. I'm not saying they haven't done that. I'm just saying that it would be difficult. And that Sion, being the winners of the war, could be in a better position economically, unless the infighting between the two, with Giran's side and the Caecilia side, has basically channeled all those resources into rearming, ostensibly to fight on the future war from the Federation, but in fact preparing to fight from each other. And the infighting and the corruption is kept,
I just mean that the chatter from a character's background or foreground seems to indicate that Xeon's not good economically.
Yeah. Now that's what I'm saying, that it's might be a problem there.
No, I'm talking to your comment about what should be
versus what is. I a short note, my second to last note. Notice that Shiruzu stepped out the moment Neon showed up, or at least tried to. He started moving out. Neon slashes the command, the whatever it is, command post that you can call it that, or a little office or whatever. And he's still he's like, oh shit, they're both dead. Okay, let me just jet into the air before she comes back around and then goes for another
Neon
pass.
comes down. You see Shiruzu's eye because of all parts.
Yeah.
So you can see those blue eye. And then the doctor makes a bunch of statements. One about purging the chamber or evacuating the chamber, and not the room that they're in, the big old area that Neon's coming down in, meaning that they have something in there which would allow them to. No, I don't think it's air, because again, Neon comes down through a shaft that's open to space. I don't know what it is, but again, this whole area is filled with electronic systems of some sort. Then he goes on his whole misogyny line. This is what happens when you give a woman power. Weird.
About Cecilia, yeah.
Yeah, to a previous conversation
Chiruzu
that we had.
agrees with Dr. Leone's, I think the statement at first, like, oh, you always agree with my father. It's like, yeah, whatever. Then he sees, when he sees the thing, when G-Fred comes down, he sort of like, and he starts moving. He not simply looks, he actually starts moving away.
No, he starts moving away the moment his hair parts open and you see his eye. Yeah. That's when he starts backing off, and that's what I'm talking about when the doctor's having his whole conversation. So conceivably, he's moving towards the door the entire time, but somehow doesn't get that far, despite quite a amount of time passing before Neon swipes at the building.
We don't know how big it is, And also, I think he doesn't want to be noticed going for the door, right? He's like, I want to leave before anybody notices me. So
I don't even know why it would matter. Legitimately, the threat is coming down. I don't think anyone cares if somebody backs away.
No, I think he doesn't want to notice because he doesn't want to share panic. He wants the Leones to die in this situation. If they notice, they run with him. But if he can sneak before it happens, it's like they die and they get taken out.
It entirely depends on what his plan is, and which we don't know.
Yeah.
If he was wanting to use them for a specific reason, then he wouldn't want them to die. If he was using them just to get here, then it doesn't matter what happens to them.
Well, you wouldn't have to carry around or try to protect them or have to kill them somewhere else, right?
Again, we don't know what they're up to specifically. It seems like they're the ones controlling the whole project, using other Lala. In which case, if he cares about that, then he needs them because obviously they're the experts in the research. If he was just trying to get here and coming here on the backs of them, then that's a completely different thing, in which case they're not necessary.
Or not necessarily anymore.
And those are just two examples that I'm saying. Obviously, it could be any other thing.
Your next note, then.
So we've heard that Gurren is making cyber new types, and yet when confronted about the Federation Saikamu that tried to kill Kycelia, and who leaked her whereabouts there, he presents the concept of new types in almost the same light as Shiko did. Interestingly, though, he puts up the front of nature to Kycelia's nurture. To let natural selection or God's hand do whatever it is they will do in order to provide which is better. It is rather separate to how he viewed Space Noid versus Earth Noid conflict, at the very least. Whereas Kycelia is clearly all about nurturing and guiding new types along the path she sets out for them. Then, she essentially tells Neon the exact opposite, that strength determines who has the ability to survive, and not doing so disproves your right to exist. Might makes right, essentially. Leaving me thinking, and maybe rightfully so, that the zombies are just a bunch of self-interested hypocrites.
Yes, I agree. Although, we do know that the concept of new type came with Daikon, Xeon Daikon. And I believe that Gurren was rejecting that idea of the better man, coming in and simply stating, we're from space, we're better, period, right? That's it. Our people are better, and that's it. Not from a biological position, which actually new types would be an argument, but more of a moralistic, us versus them, shall we say, ideological position.
Plus,
right?
the argument he's having. Remember back in Origin when he is walking out of the room with his father, and he is just constantly giving like speech quotes, not like no real argument, just speech quotes at him till he rounds the corner. And I was saying, this man has no argument. He is just saying blurbs so he can get out of the room before anything can be said back to him. That's what I was saying back then, that he has no real beliefs. But it's just funny to me that you brought that up, because it's essentially he is saying one thing and doing another thing, and Caecilia is doing the same thing. Again, like you're all still all about that new type nonsense, as though he doesn't believe it, even though we know he is making cyber new types. He's making a better man. So the idea that he would think that space noids aren't a better man versus Earth noids, it is, I guess, essentially. I guess actually that is what he believes. Because that's what he says. If they are real, then let them fight and kill us and prove that they are the best. Because he wants the war between Earth noids and space noids so that space noids can prove that they're the best, and he wants the war to go on forever to essentially either once and for all declare that space noids are the best with the death of the Earth noids, or, vice versa. Technically, if you take this reading on what he thinks is the best way to solve the scenario, he has lived it.
I mean, yeah, he technically won the war and proved that the space noids are stronger than the Earth noids. Now he might want to go further and just kill them outright, which was what this whole thing was designed to do, to be the ultimate, destroyer of the Earth, wiper of humanity. Which, ironically, because he's perfectly willing to use a new type in order to power it. Or maybe he doesn't know. I doubt he doesn't know about the Rose of Sharon. That just seems implausible.
Well, again, I'm indicating more sort of the element that he goes on, like Shiku, that new types aren't real. And we know that he's building cyber new types, implying that he's a hypocrite.
Oh, to my last note, then. Just like the Red Gundam Seknova tore Salomon apart, so did the Yomantho at a greater distance and with far greater destructive power. In the hands of someone who feels no guilt for killing 4 billion people, ...
Well, I mean, that's what she said. She told Nian the plan. This smells good. Oh, that's good. Well, there won't be any more of this left. It comes from Earth. The plan is clearly to kill everyone on Earth. The whole might makes right thing I just mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah. And so those were my notes. I have a couple left, right?
Yeah. So the battle plan has been that Caecilia's homeland forces mobilize. Yamantho gets blockaded so that the Giran forces here can also be dealt with. And the super weapon gets turned on Abaquo, which I guess is also a fortress of Giran's forces. Despite the head already being cut off of this Zabi branch, it was also essentially dealt a death blow in very little time. I can imagine what forces might be left that would be putting up a fight. Sorry, I can't imagine what forces that might be left that would be willing to put up a fight if they were even allowed to surrender. I gotta say, though, not much sympathy for the Guaran crew. That's the G name I couldn't remember earlier. The Guaran crew that thought that detecting a bunch of mobile suits in the area was worth whispering about rather than calling out as a threat. That cost them at least one big Zam off the bat, and ultimately their lives.
I mean, there's also the idea that, well, I think, here's the thing. If it had been Federation forces, I think that psychologically, Federation is always the enemy. But there's always that little bit of them going like, is Caeciliia is really going to do this? She's really going to attack us, right? They're like, no, Sion don't, Ape doesn't kill Ape kind of situation. It's like, they wouldn't be doing this. Like, oh shit, they are.
Except that they're legitimately factionalized. They came here in ships that specifically were one side or the other. The National Defense Forces, Giran's forces, brought overwhelming threat, and they thought that would deal with Caeciliia.
So they also believe it's a combination of two things. Is they believe that they have the superior hand because, oh, look, we have all these big Sams and we're in a best position. Nobody would attack us here. So I see that doesn't have the forces. And also it's like, on top of that, it's like, and besides, if it's going to happen, it may happen. I think it's people are willing to believe everything except for what's in front of theirs, right? In front of their eyes, right? If they don't want to believe that this is going to happen, they're willing to put those mental blocks. And those mental blocks survive just long enough to delay them, which is kind of the shock effect, right? That's a surprise element.
I mean, I would also argue that it's not them doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Your job isn't to whisper about, oh no, look at that couple of blips on the radar screen. Oh well, we're safe. This is Pearl Harbor. What could fucking happen? Right? No. You call out the threats as you see them, and then, what are you, idiot? Those are our men. Let the commander say that. Not, what do you mean, mobile suits? Those are Zeon mobile suits. You know what you're here for. You know that you're escorting Giran to a meeting with Caecilia, who he hasn't seen in 5 years. It seems like every member of Zeon knows that.
It doesn't stop him from being stupid, though.
Well, that's why my note was about no sympathy.
I don't have anybody's sympathy, anybody in that fight, but sure. Except for Lala, I suppose, but...
So she's not in that fight.
Well, she's being fought over, I suppose.
Sure, but she's not in the fight. Helen of Troy wasn't in that fight.
But my sympathy would still be with her, though, because she's the one that, is being abused and bandied about, and it's the victim of all this.
Or is she manipulating her?
Depends on which version of the story you want to. It was basically a goddess that told her, no, you're going to chuck up with this guy. It's like, okay. The goddess of love. Oops.
Well, no clue who Dr. Leo and Tirzari Leone were. Maybe we'll meet them in a future UC show during our watch-through, but they are dead for us now. Shirozu saw what was coming and booked it before those two realized.
It's just what my second to last note was all about.
If you ever get assigned to Abo Quo, do everything in your power to get transferred. The place is a death trap no matter what timeline you are in, though this timeline definitely feels like the worst one to be stationed therein.
I suppose you could, in the other ones, you could either escape or surrender to the Federation. Here, you got torn to pieces in a dimensional rift.
Yeah, they got like wormholed towards the Earth and then ripped apart. Yeah. And then all the ships rammed into one another because they got pulled in. I mean, you got 5 years to get transferred off of this timeline to suffer a worse fate. Versus, in the other timeline, just being on the front line of the war to conceivably escape back to Zeon itself.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's the end of the notes. As I said, we do have some comments. Blue Comet from the Patreon from last episode. 1. The portrait behind Giran in this episode is a reference to The Apparition by French artist Gustave Moreau, painted between 1874 and 1876. The artwork depicts the biblical figure Salome dancing before Herod Antipas, while a vision of John the Baptist's severed head appears before her. Probably the thing I was calling out is Jesus, baby Jesus. 2. Cecilia Irene, Giran's personal secretary and rumored mistress, typically seen in the background in the OG series, is revealed as one of the main antagonists in the spin-off manga Mobile Suit Gundam, The Plot to Assassinate Giran. I think we mainly saw her in the movie 3.
Yeah.
3. The Zek Nova phenomenon closely mirrors another event that occurs later in the main UC timeline. I won't go into detail to avoid spoilers, but you'll recognize a similarity as you continue watching the UC series in chronological order.
That's all the comments?
No, but typically you have something to say.
I mean, the painting, I noticed the painting, but I didn't put a lot of stock in it. Yeah, the idea of Salome, it's the phrase, bring me his head in a silver platter. That's where the story comes from. Because, John the Baptist was predicting that Jesus was going to come and tear down the old system. And she was tired of it and said, listen, we got to get rid of this guy, and capriciously ordered her husband, essentially, this is what I want, because I think she was going to marry the king. And it's like, well, what do you want from me? As your husband to be. It's like, yeah, I want that guy. He said on a silver platter, right? And that's an act of. It's seen as something as an act of betrayal, right? Killing a prophet, which both in Judaism and in Christianity are seen some of the highest figures, short of Christ and others, and especially killing the prophet that is prophesizing the coming of your Messiah, right? Of your Savior. How does this apply to this? Well, first of all, I guess Kaisida could be Solomon. It's like, and having literally these people be brought to her in a silver platter, like, yeah, I have you all here. Now you're dead, right? There's going to be an assassination. The question is, who would be the messianic figure here, or who would be the prophet, right?
Lala.
Would it be Lala?
Has to be Lala.
Well, but then who is she prophesying?
Kaisida has control over at the moment.
Yeah, but she didn't kill the prophet.
No, you said the messianic figure. John the Baptist calling for the return of Jesus.
Yeah, John the Baptist is the person that gets murdered, and he's the prophet.
Well, I'm saying that in this, Lala would be represented by Jesus. I don't know who John the Baptist would be. Clearly, it's not Giran.
No, I don't think Lala is. I think Lala is not the messianic figure. Yeah.
No, I think it's Nyan or Machu. Well, then I guess that would be Shuji, would be, because they're both doing it for Shuji, who would be that figure to them in the metaphor. And Lala would just be this thing. I guess Lala would be the silver plate.
I suppose so.
Well, because the Zek Nova would technically be the silver plate, but she is the thing that causes the silver plate. Yeah. Metaphor territory.
Wow, that would be horrible. It's like, oh yeah, we want to bring him back, and then Shuji's severed head just starts floating around. It's like, well, we brought him back.
Well, no, because remember in the opening, Shuji's on Earth.
True, but we haven't seen that image yet, and we're in episode 11. So,
out of 12 or 13, I don't know. I assume that this was brought up specifically because I kept harping about the picture, the entire scene. All right, well, we also have Mr. Fricky from the Patreon, same episode. Think the solar rays mirrors bend the Zek Nova to only go one direction instead of all around the rose, and the center of the Zek Nova seems to be still the rose, so everything went to that single point. The interesting part is that the rose and G-Fred remained and didn't go with Abaquo.
So they were torn apart, killed, and then disposed of by shunting into Thomas' place. It must be funny. Like in another reality, Amuro and Char are fighting. All of a sudden, all this, thousands, millions of pieces start appearing out of nowhere. It's like, fuck,
I know, it's hard to tell. That's why I was asking at the end of the episode what had actually happened, because they get sucked towards the Yamang. Yamang, though. Yeah, I know, sometimes it's hard for me to read. They get sucked towards it, and then it all vanishes as it's approaching.
Yeah, so it has to be another dimension, right?
Assuming,
or another time in this reality. It's time and space.
Yeah, but there's no telling where it's going.
Yeah,
they could have dumped it into the sun for all we know, or Jupiter. Yeah, the big red spot is actually Abaquo.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I didn't put that in my notes.
It's not interesting.
I didn't put this in my notes.
The big red spot's so much bigger than Abaquo. The big red spot's much bigger than Earth.
Yeah,
so much bigger than multiple Earths. Yeah,
but that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is when Chyla was about to off himself, right? He was going to pull the trigger. He's literally staring at the big red spot in Jupiter across the window, and then he apparently sees something. And then everything starts activating. It's like, what the? We don't know. He seems to be aware of something that he sees in this big red spot, right? This great maelstrom, but we don't know what it is. And then he's like, oh.
I don't think he sees anything. I don't think he sees anything. I think it's just a moment of clarity, because that's what he's describing when he's telling Machu. I think if he saw something, he would have said something to Macho because he's like laying it all bare.
Yeah. So there must be some, maybe, or maybe I'm making too much of it anyway. But it could be some symbology, some.
I don't foresee us getting any more Jupiter imagery.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I don't think that's it. All right.
Well, no, I think it does have, because it's like the great storm that it is. Basically, it's a giant semi-permanent hurricane. What's going to happen in this episode is everybody's going to be, torn apart and brought into the sphere of these two people fighting this great.
It's metaphor.
Tempest.
We're back to metaphor territory. Or is it, a visual representation of Chalia's own internal turmoil, and that storm has finally settled, and that's when everything goes back to normal again. Not back to normal, the new normal. Like I said, it's metaphor. Visual metaphors being the worst of all.
Or the best.
No, because people just debate them. So it's the worst.
But I like the debate. I like the debate.
Oh, is that why you end all the debates that I have with you? With anyways, and then try to move on as hard as you can?
Well, I know there's a point where the debate becomes meaningless, but engaging in the debate does not mean that it's not worthwhile engaging in the debate.
I think it is, only from the aspect that visual metaphors are no better than dream interpretation. Here's what I thought about when I was staring at this picture for 5 hours. Oh, okay, that's not what I felt. Cool. Both of our interpretations are entirely personal, and we can actually have no real debate about this. We have debate about the things that we felt and thought that they were random interpretations of, and be like, oh, well, that doesn't represent the king of Thames at all. And be like, oh, fuck you then. Like, no, there's no meaningful debate about interpretation that I can think of.
Visual, valuable,
visual interpretation. I don't think it is.
Still valuable.
Again, don't tell me what your dreams are. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's the same thing. I had a cool dream last night where I did and yeah, what am I going to do with that? Bruce Ingram from the Rose of Sharon, Cabas Estate, and Char taking her away from it are from a novel Tamino wrote in the 90s called Secret Rendezvous. I imagine sorry, I say this wrong every time. Yashikazu Yashihiko didn't like that, so came up with something different in the origin manga.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we have 2 origin stories for Lala, at least.
All right, and lastly, we have 1988, The Rose of Sharon. The issue with treating Origin and the original TV series as combined timeline is when you have divergent character backstories. In the TV series timeline, Char first meets Lala during his time on Earth after Garma's death, fighting against the White Base, with the details she mentions here.
I have to disagree because, as we were being told, that came from a novel in the 1990s, and also Char never mentions how they meet. Lala never mentions how they meet. They just one moment he's on Earth, gets approached by an agent of Caecilia. He disappears for most of the show, comes back, and shortly after he comes back, actually not even shortly after, 3 or 4 episodes, because he's on Earth doing the whole jetting around at a little, jet ski kind of thing that he's going ship. Then after he's done with that, and they battle, where he spends most of the remaining forces in North America to try to get, take down the White Base. Then he goes to space, and then we see Lala. So I'm going to call a no on that one.
I mean, obviously, I disagree based on the elements that this is everything I've said before. And also, what we've actually seen in the TV series timeline, unless future Char stuff contradicts what we're seeing here. Like Char has flashbacks in Zeta or something, which goes over all of this. Then currently, as per the OG series, then no. Because Lala just fucking shows up. He has her with him. We don't see any of the meeting stuff happening. Whereas Origin does show us a meeting happening. And it doesn't counteract anything that happens in the OG show. As per our ruling on this, that anything that doesn't anything that doesn't contradict Origin is still canon. Or anything in Origin that's not contradicted by stuff moving forward, rather, is still canon.
Any other comments?
No, I think that is everything. So with all that done, I guess nothing left to do but to hop on in and see what we get.
But before we get started,
Make sure that you hit the like button.
Hit that subscribe button.
Comment down below to feed that algorithm.
on top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this,
Unfiltered.
Uncensored.
And uncut.
as well as some early access stuff,
You can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Well, that was a bit loud on my side. Of course, you guys can't hear that, but yeah, still. Here it's like, ah.
I thought you were going to go off about how you really like this song after first.
I thought about it, but I'm not going to say the same thing over. And, well,
Don't
not-
I get
that
recorded
hasn't
11
actually-
times in a row?
Yeah, that hasn't stopped me in the past for saying the same thing over and over again. I just decided to change things up this time.
I mean, legit, it's the only thing I thought about when I was watching the opening, because I've already really tried to analyze the opening, and there's nothing here.
Yeah.
There's nothing here left
No.
anymore.
I mean, we're no longer seeing the clan battle people. They're gone. And they're still. Oh, yeah. The one thing I could say that I should have said earlier is that we do get a different ending, right? But we haven't changed the opening.
I don't think we have a
Considering
different
everything
ending.
that's happened, you will get a new opening.
I don't remember a different ending. Are you sure you're not remembering? Are you sure you're not remembering Macross Delta?
It could be Macross Delta, yeah.
Last episode of Macross Delta was a different ending,
Mm-hmm.
which I actually have notes about, which is why I'm remembering that that's maybe what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Because last episode of this, we didn't have an ending. The credits were
Yeah.
playing as stuff was happening. But yeah,
Which follows the pattern of the original 79, which only the same opening and same ending. Right in the middle of the action again.
also the whale song is a bit weird.
Oh, it could be the La La sound, I suppose, or a version of it. Sucks to be them, literally. Hope you're not pregnant.
ちゃんのキラキラとは全然違う。でも、もう一度、
Oh no.
シュウちゃんを取り
Well, I noticed what.
もっと大きなキラキラがいるんだ。
I mean, we already talked about this literally in our notes section.
私の邪魔をしないで。あ、冷却中。
Okay, are you not seeing what you're doing? You're pointing this at the Earth. I don't care. I just want to hear this guy
She's
again.
not from Earth. She doesn't care.
あれってGQuuuuuX。
Oh.
あいつも邪魔するのか。
She wants to murder millions of people, I
She
guess.
doesn't care
Because
about
why
people.
not?
アルファ殺しが2機揃ったか。
Alphaciders.
Fighters?
Well, I mean, the episode's called Alphacide. Yeah, I'm saying.
アルファ
yeah.
殺したち。
We haven't even really established really what Diablo means, let alone Alphacide.
あいつが撃ったのか。誰が乗ってるんだ。
Maybe Alphacide means somebody kills their Mav.
All-range
ビットによるオールレンジ攻撃はどれほど予測不可能に見えてもそれを動かしているのは人の意志です。有限の武器、有限の攻撃回数、その組み合わせに過ぎません。それを操るニュータイプも所詮人なのですから。
And the whole thing about new types is being able to read one another. I guess ultimately, Machu got trained by Chalia, and Neon got trained by Xavier.
まさか。できたよ、ヒゲマン。
Also, why aren't these beams hitting the walls and doing damage, though?
I think the idea is that the beams on the walls are reflective.
撃の気配が読めない。気づいた時
Shalia.
やられている。これがオールレンジ攻撃。
許せ。キシリア様のニュータイプ部隊。君たちは強い。
Oh, the whole thing is her new type force is us answering a previous really long conversation.
Oh, okay, this is new.
キケロガがこの絵のギャン部隊と交戦しています。
なんで中様イオマグヌス艦船との通信現在も回復しません。
You stop the Yamato from firing and killing billions more?
シムス大尉は把握しているのか。中佐はキシリア様を排除しようとしているのです。来たるべきニュータイプの時代のために。排除だと？何を言ってるんだこいつは。
シムス大尉、本物のニュータイプならそんなことはしないよ。
Again, the idea that maybe Charlie's not a new type, but he's some sort of weird mutant esper thing.
私だってわかんないよ。しょうがないじゃん。こうなっちゃったんだから。さっきの悲鳴聞こえなかったの？ただ気持ち悪いだけ。知らない誰かが頭の中で邪魔をして。マチが言ったんでしょ。シュウジを守るためだって。シュウジのため。
He vanished in front of you. I have no fucking idea what happened to him.
そうすればニャーもイオマグヌスを使えなくなるんだから。ララ、それがさっきから聞こえるこの声の正体。シャロンの
I think Nyan was better before.
その時が来たらオメガサイコミのリミッターデバイスを破壊してください。あなたとガンダムクワックスならシャロンのバラの時間凍結に干渉できるはずです。
で、あんたはどうすんの？
軍人には軍人の責任の取り方があります。
このデバイスやるのか？やる。タラを助けるんだ。
Oh, okay. I was like, that seemed like you turned it on, not like you destroyed it, but there we go. High five units activated.
Black hole generators?
It's something. Could be mini Zynovas. Or eye fields or any other thing we don't know about.
誰もシャロンのバラの内部には干渉できなかった。でもジークアックスならやめて。マチュ。
So I guess that's what Dr. Leone was good for, time research.
Oh, that does damage to the system.
Well, like I said, it's a reflective chamber, so assumably the beams were just reflecting.
キシリア様はニュータイプの未来を考えておられる。あなただって分かっているはずだ。
そのために地球に住む人々を滅ぼしても構わないと？
そんなことできるわけない。
このイオマグヌストならできるかもしれないのです。キシリア様ならためらうことなくそれを行うでしょう。
And it feels like it would kill everybody. Not just on the Earth, I mean the element that it seems to suck everything into a hole. So you would be destroying the gravity well that is Earth.
Yeah.
シュウジ。シュウジ、何が言いたいの？ あっちに何があるの？分かった。ガンダムがそう言ってるんだね。
I don't get it. My head was
Remember that
dancing
when
with the
Shuji spoke
idea
was
that
like-
Shuji was never real and it was always a projection of Lala.
シュウちゃん。シュウちゃん。
Okay, movie theater or
Meanwhile, back at Madoka Magica,
やはり姿を現したの。この作戦を始めれば貴様に会えると思っていたよ。まさかイオマグヌッソの開発スタッフに紛れていようとは。相変わらず大胆な男だ。シャア・アズナブル。いや、
a reveal
キャス
totally ruined by commenters.
お久しぶりです。キシリア閣下。
Now that I think his face looks like Char to me, I would still be thrown.
yeah.
I have the same way Char pointed the gun at the crew back in Origin.
そなたの父大君の唱えた理想も信じていたはずだ。もし宇宙で人の革新があるのなら、それをついえさせてはならない。そのために地球に固執する旧人類どもを一掃してやろうというのだ。誰よりも貴様が望んでいたことで。
Again, you're leaning on the whole Earthnoids versus Spacenoids thing, not the new
Yeah.
type thing. Because there's Earthnoid new types.
Yeah.
これ、キシリア様ともう一人は誰？
ジオンはすでに手中にある。私のもとへ戻れ。二人で新しい世界を築こうではないか。
この世界には閣下のご存じない断りがあるのです。
何のことか。この計画を実行するにはシャロンのバラと赤いガンダムが必要であったが、私はすでに代わりのガンダムフレトとそのパイロットを手に入れた。もはや貴様がいなくとも私は構わぬのだ。
I mean, Cassilia don't know about the other side.
Yeah.
Dead. Massive cranial damage.
シュウジは
Yeah.
逃げるぞ。
あれもシャアの一味か。
怪我はありませんか？キシリア様。
Man, you're the worst pilot.
落ちちゃう。落ちちゃう。
Meanwhile, in Interstellar,
Ow. That should have broken his back. Well, then
Yeah.
again, she didn't die when
yeah,
she.
I'm saying she just fell on her head.
助かった。礼を言う。君は確かガンダムクアックスのパイロットだな。
誰なんですか？誰だお前誰だ？
Well, so much for the Haru knowing everything.
なんかシュウジと似た匂いがするかも。
始まった。
何がですか？
Yeah, I was saying, I know you're gonna throw up. There's oxygen here. They're still fucking exposed to the corridor of space. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh. What the hell? He had
just,
a magic girl transformation. Yeah.
Maju Shuju.
水星のシャアなの？
こんなことまで起こってしまう。これが彼女の覚えている私の姿なのだろう。
Well, she's changing reality to what she remembers.
いない。シュウジはどこ？
修二伊藤か。
シュウジとはどんな関係なんですか？
彼は私が見込んだ以上のニュータイプだった。おそらく私の前に現れたのも偶然ではなかったのだろう。できれば 私の同志になってもらいたかったが、彼はバラの中で眠る少女に取りつかれてしまった。君は彼に思いを寄せているのか？だが一方的な思いが相手を追い詰めることもある。
何のこと？
彼女は本来この世界にいてはいけない存在だ。私が彼女を消滅させる。
消滅？
Then I guess what? Target herself?
消滅ってどういうことなんですか？ね
I guess so. Go back where she belongs.
I mean, also this completely disproves my entire Char as the Gundam thing. He's just been around the whole time in the background.
ララを助けなきゃ。
I guess maybe he may have been sending messages to the Gundam that Shuji was saying, oh, the Gundam says.
こんなところで何をしている？作戦はどうした？
Why does the Yamakuso, whatever you call it, have an opera theater inside of it?
シャロンのバラの中には誰かいるんですか？
少しくらいの気持ち悪さがどうした？ことが済めばお前を邪魔する者はいなくなり、本物の自由が手に入るのだぞ。
自由。違う。キシリア様はさっき話していた男のためにこの作戦を始めたと言っていた。マジュ？
先ほどのやつか。
マジュ、逃げろ！
シャアの仲間ならば死ね！
Well then. I see they got shot in the back. How unexpected.
違います。キシリア様、私は。
Oh right, new type. No, not me, Caecilia.
Yeah.
She had that shocked look on her face like, oh right, that's what I was doing.
ニュータイプ専用モビルアーマーだがそれは建造されぬままアルファ型サイコミはこの赤いガンダムに搭載されたにもかかわらず建造されなかったモビルアーマーがここにあり世界に一つしかないはずのアルファ型サイコミュが2つ存在している2つのサイコミュの共鳴その不安定さこそバラの少女がこの世界にゼクノバを引き起こす原因なのだやはり彼女にはこの世界から消えてもらわなければならないこのイオマグヌッソはそのために建造された
I mean, she clearly doesn't go back to her own world.
ガンダムクワックスなんだ
No longer frozen in time. We still targeted at the Earth?
No, targeted away from the Earth.
No. The last target coordinates that we had were the ones that Neon entered. Was just pointed at the Earth. It was waiting for barrel cooldown.
Yeah.
本物のゼクノバが始まるんです。
本物の始まりましたか。これってミノフスキー粒子が光って見えるのか。向こう側から流れ込むミノフスキー粒子と反応したエネルギーが光として認識される。向こう側。
Minovsky particles from the other side.
見たことのある光景でしょう。ゼクノバによって起こるこの現象の中でならニュータイプの認知能力は極大になる。
Old school sound.
I'm not saying much because I'm fascinated with what's going on here. Oh, I see you.
Also still alive. Yeah, and I'm also recognizing that if I don't keep talking, there's gonna be too much copyrighted elements here. That's why I often get accused of saying the stupidest shit. Because I have to, if nobody's talking.
Question is, will the show allow for for another massive war crime, or will it stop it? Will the writers go, no, it's better to have this massive war crime go off because it's more interesting than for it not? That's my question right now. More than the infighting, more than anything else.
I mean, for me, it's more an element of what are they gonna do with this.
飼い犬に噛まれた。それより、この光は何だ？
光？何のことですか？ドクターを早く！
Hey, it was a question I had a long time ago. Caecilia, possible new type?
ゼクノバが起こっていることは間違いありません。けれど、このゼクノバは過去に観測されたものと違います。ゼクノバは別宇宙との境界が破れ、エネルギーが交換される現象と考えられています。過去に観測された3度のゼクノバ、ソロモン、サイド6、そしてアバオアクー、その全てでこちら側の質量エネルギーが向こう側へ流出するという形で起こっています。でもこれは逆向きなんです。
Something's coming
向こう
through.
側のエネルギーがこちら側に流れ込んできている。
何が出てくるって言うんだ。
Turns out this is all just one large advertisement for a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert.
Yeah.
Other Side was one of my favorite songs.
彼女に傷ついてほしくないだけなんだ。それは私とて同じだ。だが、バラの少女が世界を歪め続けているのなら、それは正さねばならない。それもすべてはあなたを守るためなのに。だからこそだ。
Couldn't be the first person to sacrifice themselves to protect me.
それも
It's my superpower.
もう終わる。お前は何者だ？僕は向こう側からやってきた。
Shuji, another version of Amuro.
Probably.
彼女が作ったこの世界を終わらせるために。
I guess not.
Or
What did I
yes.
say? No. No, it's still no.
I mean,
no is still the answer. There's
well, he's
oh hey.
no. I mean, I'm saying
No,
that.
no, the fucking song. Beyond Time, whatever the song, most famous Gundam song ever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean we have to talk over it anyway. I just wanted to indicate because it didn't seem like you understood.
But that's
that
a
this
Gundam.
Was...
That's a RC-78.
No, sorry. The
X.
answer is still no. Shuji is not Amuro. Amuro was
But he's
clearly
bringing Amuro. He's bringing
that's I said. Is Shuji Amuro? And you said maybe yes, and then you responded definitely yes. It was like no. Shuji came from the other side to destroy this world, apparently. And Amuro is now coming through, assuming that is actually Amuro, because I think that's the clear thing to assume. It could be fucking Sayla for all we know.
Could be, but it is the classic SS7. It's not
Beyond
even
Time,
this version.
Beyond Time TM Network. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
It's not this version of the.
I saw a thing that said TM Network did a new version of Beyond Time, so this is that being used.
Oh yeah, this is TM. Yeah, it sounds like him. I didn't clock it at first.
Well, that's what I was pointing at. The thing scrolling by Beyond Time TM Network. They did their new version of Beyond Time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe this world was never meant to exist in the first place. That's what they're saying.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, Shuji said, I've come here to destroy this world. It shouldn't exist. But yeah, sorry. There's also the element that we shouldn't know the song Beyond Time yet, but
Yeah,
it's
I know.
also was used in a special opening of Origin, the Rise of the Red Comet, which isn't the one we watched. We watched the 6-episode one. Rise of the Red Comet is the one where they split that up into 24-minute episodes.
Oh, I think I know where the song is from, and it's a major spoiler if it is.
Well, the song itself isn't a spoiler. Where it's used
yes,
that's what I'm saying. I don't know where it comes from, but they used it in an opening for Origin, which they animated Origin side by side with the other art style from wherever it comes from. So I've heard the song before, and I know people say it's very important. It's like also one of the best Gundam songs of the Universal Century. So when I heard it, I'm like, wait a second. And then you were entering into the defense of its Amuro thing, and it's like, wait, this is an important thing I'm hearing. Wait, hold on.
Or either he is a version of Amuro, or he's not.
He's not.
He's someone else completely.
I don't foresee the Gundam flying out on its own through an other side portal.
I think it has to be Amuro on that Gundam.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He has to know what the...
That's what I'm saying. So Shuji's not Amuro.
Yeah.
I know that they've indicated plenty of times now that a certain type of new type can control a mobile suit at a distance, but those have been Saikamu equipped mobile suits. I have no reason to believe that this Gundam has a Saikamu in it, unless it's a future version of the RX-78-2 that comes from a show in the Universal Century we haven't seen before. Like, if the RX-78-2 comes back in Zeta, then I would have no fucking idea. But if it did, it could be a Saikamu-equipped version that an Amuro could pilot at a distance, in which case Shuji could be pulling it through.
But Shuji basically said that he wasn't from this world anyway. So where does he come from?
The world.
Yeah, but in which timeline and which...
Doesn't matter.
It might.
If we've determined that this Lala is not our Lala, and she comes from a different world, then does it matter which other world another Amuro or a Shuji might come from?
Maybe.
I don't think that it does, because it would be a world that we have no information on. And at that point, it would just be collecting information about it to try and make guesses about. It wouldn't be, okay, they're from the one that we know about, so we have stuff we could say.
In a way, it was not what I expected. Of course, we still have at least one episode left, maybe two, depending if it goes to 13 episodes. I know that we're 1 week behind, so people who might have watched it concurrently, like, no, we know what it is. Please don't tell us. We'll get there.
I would have to anticipate. I'm going to ask you straight up. Do you know where the song comes from?
Considering what's been happening, especially with the Segnovas, I have a strong, and it's a clearly 1980 song. I have a strong suspicion, but I won't say because...
I'm not asking you to tell me that information. I'm asking you to tell me, do you know the...
For sure? No.
The media specifically that the song comes from?
No. I don't know, but I suspect.
Because I would suspect that would be the clue. That they're playing that to indicate to us that this Amuro comes from that media.
Yeah.
So... I would anticipate then that anybody watching would be like, that song is playing. Oh my god, it's going to be this thing. Hell, the fact that Zek Novas may have happened in Universal Century might imply that maybe Amuro fucking dies to a Zek Nova and, you know? The thing.
The thing, yeah.
I literally have no idea. The only thing I know after Universal Century is that joke gif of Amuro and Char rolling around on the grass. You gotta have sex with my sister, or whatever the fuck the joke is. I can't remember.
Yeah, no, because, well, that joke actually I don't think is from that. I think the joke is from
the
end of 79 when he says...
Don't tell me. I understand that you want me to take the headset off so you can explain it to the audience?
No, because you know this. Remember that 79...
No. The thing, you're gonna explain something that is not what I'm talking about then. Because the thing I'm talking about is a char that looks more like that guy in this show
Yeah.
than any
Yeah.
char that we've seen in our stuff.
Yes.
So
But
it doesn't
joke
come
is,
from. No, I'm saying the joke. What I'm talking about, the animation segment that I'm talking about, does not come from anything we've seen before. So
no, it doesn't come from 79.
yeah, you understand
But
why I'm being
the
real hesitant
wording-
and not letting
yes.
you finish, because I feel like anything you're about to say contains spoilers.
No, because you already heard the joke.
Yes, but I
And
have
it
no
happened in
context. I
79.
have no context. I have zero context.
The joke is okay.
I'm really
The
trying
joke,
to tell you,
the
I don't want to hear
animation is
anything.
from one thing. The joke, the wording is from somewhere else, which we already talked about. It's 79. It comes from 79. Okay? So it's not a spoiler to know what the joke is because you already know what the joke is. I'm not spoiling something for you.
You keep saying that, but how easy it is to walk on eggshells.
No, we just separate the animation. Forget it. It's not the animation. Forget the animation. Concentrate on the words, on the joke. You already know this joke.
The thing that I said I couldn't barely
We already
remember.
made this joke on this channel. We already made that joke on the channel when we watched it.
Do not remember.
It's directly lifted from 79.
And I also just described to you that the thing I remember mostly was the animation, not the wording, because I couldn't even say the wording right.
Well, you said the gist of it, so it fits.
I don't even remember why we're going down this trail. I've been so shields up to try and defend myself against possible spoilers that I don't even remember
you
why
brought
we
it up.
went.
I didn't bring it up. I was trying to tell you that what you just said wasn't a spoiler.
I think I brought it up because I was trying to interpret where the song may have inspired people to know what's happening, that there are events that we don't know. And I think maybe I was bringing up the element that you constantly know shit that you shouldn't know for having never seen a bunch of stuff. So the element that you might have known this and might be able to pull stuff from it that I can't weigh in about.
Anyway.
Again, the other joke that we brought up, the fact that you seem to know so much Gundam to the point that you would have had to spend most of your life watching Gundam and somehow don't remember anything.
Anyhow, this episode was great. I liked it. I didn't like the fact Cassida survived, but, whatever, better she just got shot and killed, but,
I had no problem with Caecilia's survival.
Well, it is because she can still activate the thing and blow up the Earth or something, which
but
I don't want it to happen.
I think Gundam shows are more interesting when a zombie is present.
Yeah. Well, not really. I think other characters are just as interesting.
No, because the zombies are like linchpins to the story of Gundam. So when there's a zombie around, that is weight given to the story. Whereas everybody else is just like, oh, there's a person who's only going to be in one show. The zombies like weave in between other shows. Giran gives speeches in 8th MS Team and OG Gundam, and is present in the background of Requiem for Vengeance.
Yeah, Requiem for Vengeance.
Yeah, it's just the zombies weave their way throughout the entire 1 year war, whereas characters that have weight to them in individual shows. It's a previous discussion we have had before during Macross about preferring characters with multiple appearances or across multiple series versus just having new characters. I really like having the characters appear in more than one thing. A zombie showing up is a zombie that can appear elsewhere, and then you can take your feelings about what they did in one show and then apply them to another show. Like, I know that guy. I fucking hate that guy. I remember when he did this in 79, or when he inspired such and such person in an 8th MS Team. And it's like, okay, I can carry my feelings along.
Remember, we're soon going to move beyond 79, so by definition, we're going to have to encounter new characters and new situations.
Yeah, but that's the benefit of the Universal Century, is that a bunch of the characters we've been with, assumedly, will either carry on to new shows or will inspire characters from new shows. The same way, like in Macross Delta, Walkir is inspired by the idols of past Macross shows. They say that. So even if we don't get them, we get mentions of them. Someone in future Universal Century shows might mention the war hero Amuro or whatever, or those war criminals, those zombies. It's stuff that carries along, rather than just watching, okay, here's one 50-episode show, and then here's another 50-episode show that has nothing to do with it, and we'll never talk about the other show. I feel like my time investment is more rewarded by interconnected shows with interconnected characters.
Yeah, but it comes to a point, I think, that, at least to me, you can stretch something to the breaking point. It's like, yeah, I've seen this guy like 20 times. Can I move on? You know?
For me, that's not a stretch, though.
Because, I already said all the stories that with that character. I want to see something different. So having a legacy character in the background, I don't mind. Having it essentially the same story over and over again comes to a point where it gets very tired.
There's a difference between having the same character and the same story over and over again.
It usually falls in the same thing, because
no, there's no reason you have to put the same character in the same story. Same character, different story. And that doesn't stretch anything.
Star Trek, I think it's a good example of like the last Star Trek. They brought back the old crew. I'm like, they didn't do anything good with them.
That's bad writing, though. There's a difference between saying same character, bad writing. Of course, no one's going to defend bad writing. Well, people will defend bad writing, but I'm saying you don't defend bad writing. Those people will say it was good writing, you just didn't understand it. I'm saying that you could bring Picard back and do something good with him. Did they? No. Like, it could have. I would say that Patrick Stewart got a big head over the years and tried to direct things himself, and he was not good at it. Did not understand why people loved the character. I would say John Delancey and who played Spock again, Leonard Nimoy, were really good about understanding why people loved their characters. Have you ever watched or listened to the audio that they do as Q meeting Spock and just talking to one another?
Places. And then they switch places in one time.
They might. Yeah, I think they might during that. But it's mostly just them talking to each other and then meeting a character called P. They're really good about understanding why people loved their characters. They could have gone on to do stuff on their own in the same vein as Picard was trying to do and just continued their characters. Like Q in his video game, his full motion video game.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I was saying like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I do get, I also get I get fatigue as well, which I said, I get franchise fatigue of Star Trek, Star Wars, because it just feels the same way with the same characters. If you gotta, renovate it once in a while, give it a new spin, right? Because otherwise it's like, I can go back and watch TOS. I can go back and watch, Next Generation. I already watched that.
Yeah, I don't see why that makes any of those characters showing up again worse. Like, you can go from watching TNG to watching Deep Space Nine, and you will get Worf. And Worf isn't worse for being in DS9. In fact, he gets better in DS9.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, DS9 was already a good show without Worf.
And it wasn't made. It was made better with more Worf. Worf became a better character in DS9 than he was on TNG. Yeah, in TNG, there was a running joke that nobody takes Worf's suggestion seriously, and it was like that one episode where Riker takes it on, and he's like, "Oh, well, thank you," and then he becomes like a commanding character in TS9, where people regularly take his suggestions seriously, and then he's not even giving suggestions anymore; he's commanding what people should do. So that's a character from one show that you get more of in another show. And the show becomes better for having him.
And then you put Q on Voyager, and
I didn't have that big of a problem with Q on Voyager.
And the Borg, who got played out to the point it was like, yeah, these guys are not worth it anymore. And Section 31, which everybody now is doing Section 31. I don't know why they did it. They kept going with everything is Section 31. It's like, fucking
I would argue that the Borg doesn't play to a good example because the Borg is not a character. So, Section 31, well, they're ideas. You're entering the realm of using an idea too much is a bad idea. Which isn't really the same. Ideas. Yeah, but an idea is also transient across different shows. Star Trek and Star Wars can have the same idea and use the same idea. Ideas aren't the same thing as characters.
The fact of the matter is, it's good to have a strong foundation, but we should not be strangled by it. That's my point. It's like
the argument, though, is the argument, the end all, I think, to this thing is that your opinion is obviously different than mine. I find that I enjoy those things more when they happen, and you're saying you find yourself restricted by them.
Up to a point.
Yeah. Obviously, I can't speak for your direct opinion, but I'm trying to, like, make it very succinct. Real shortened. I really enjoy reoccurrent legacy characters. You find them to be restrictive because they restrict, apparently, what the story can tell when you center it around them. So, clearly, our enjoyments of things are going to be wildly different. I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy. And you're like, ah, shit, it's that guy.
Well, it depends on the guy and how they use. Because now I was excited that Amuro could be showing back here. Depends on which Amuro and what he does. If he just shits the bed, I'm like, what the hell?
Right. But I think the difference here is that this is essentially almost not even. Okay, this is like if Amuro showed up in Gundam Build Fighters, essentially. We're essentially straying pretty far from Universal Century stuff, in that this is 5 years after everything we know, and it's a different universe. So, the fact that Gundam Build Fighters introduces other Gundam characters to the point, again, I watched the trailer once where Domon Kashu is talking on, like, the edge of a cliff, and it's like, what the fuck is Domon Kashu doing here? So, my understanding of Build Fighters was at the point where I didn't understand that it was essentially that sort of thing. So Amuro, but the idea that the characters show up in the show to like inspire the kids and whatnot was something that didn't enter into me. Like, I understood that they were like, oh, they're building Gunpla and they're fighting, they're like building Lego figures and putting them together. The idea that the spirits of the characters or whatever inspired the kids to talk to them and whatnot, I did not understand that. So Amuro showing up in that show wouldn't be that wild. The same thing here, where we're like crossing universes and whatnot. Amuro showing up here isn't unbelievably crazy. It's not like one day Amuro showed up on The Big Bang Theory. That would be fucking insane, right? That would be different. That would be essentially Lower Decks when they showed up on Discovery. I don't watch these shows anymore, so I don't really understand. They did, though.
Although, here's the thing, though. The RX-78 compared to the machines that are fighting right now, it's widely outclassed in maneuverability and everything else. So it could literally show up, hey, I'm here. They're dead.
Well, two things. This is something I once brought up when I saw the commercial for the Gundam board game, where they showed the RX-78-2, and then they showed, like, the aerial from Witch from Mercury, and I'm like, this isn't going to play out well if your rules don't, like... But then again, they also had White Base on there. It's like, White Base isn't a Gundam. So I don't know. At the same time, what I'm feeling like here is this is going to turn into a Macross Delta situation. Lala is going to back up Amuro, and then Amuro is going to be able to do crazy shit that seemingly shouldn't be able to do as per previous Amuro that we saw. But then again, what I said before, this could just be future version of Amuro with an RX-78-2 that's been upgraded that we've never experienced because it's like from Zeta or Double Z or whatever. Hell, there could be elements here from Turn A, because from my understanding, Turn A is like Stream Future, and like, I think Zaku shows up in Turn A. That's what shows us that it's in the future of the Universal Century somehow. But who knows?
It's not supposed to be like 500 years in the future.
No. It's an undetermined amount of time. It's supposed to be extreme future, but it's also convergent timelines of a bunch of other Gundam series.
The only thing I know about Turn A, if I'm getting this right, is that they end up in Jaburo for some reason, but that's about it.
Well, that's something I didn't know. I know it's supposed to be really good, but I really only want to watch it. Well, one, I think it's in our timeline.
It's
the
one with the Gundam with the handlebar mustache, right?
Yeah.
That's Turn A, right?
I think.
Yeah. That was a design for a a live action Gundam that never came about, and it was made by what's his name, the guy who did the designs for Blade Runner and some other. He's a famous, now he's passed away, American futurist and stage designer, something like that. I forgot the name of it. Probably somebody in the audience is going to go, yeah, this is this guy. Like, yeah, that guy. But yeah. So anything else to add?
No, I mean, I guess anything coming out of this is going to be in notes for next time.
And whatever happens in the next episode, which is going to be hopefully it's a good one. I'm excited for the next episode.
Well, I mean, the Red Gundam, and then the RX-78-2, and the GQuuuuuX, and the G-Fred.
Anyway, anything else?
I think we already wrapped up once, and then we kept going for some reason. So,
yeah,
yeah. So once again, I've been Theta. This has been Lessons. We've been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?